automation trends and predictions. Distribution centers look to gamification. And what's new in retail? Pull up a chair and join us as the editors of DC Velocity discuss these stories as well as news and supply chain trends on this week's Logistics Matters podcast. Hi, I'm Dave Maloney. I'm the Group Editorial Director at DC Velocity. Welcome. Logistics Matters is sponsored by Werner. In cross-border shipping, experience is everything. With more than 25 years of trusted expertise in Mexico, Werner moves your freight seamlessly across the border. Their bilingual teams handle the customs and compliance, so you don't have to. Get the reliability your supply chain deserves. Become a customer today at choosewerner.com. As usual, our DC Velocity senior editors Ben Ames and Victoria Kickham will be along to provide their insights into the top stories of this week. But to begin today, we're only a bit more than a month into the new year, and it is hoped that automation companies will see a glimmer of hope after a somewhat uneven 2025. To find out more about automation trends, we turn to Ben Ames and today's guest. Ben?
Thanks, Dave. We're in the first quarter of a new year, and supply chain disruptions are on everybody's mind after the turbulence that we saw through 2025, from changing tariffs to geopolitical conflicts. But business conditions never do stand still, so what sort of hurdles will supply chains face in 2026? Here with some predictions is our guest this week, Jake Heldenberg, who is the Director of Sales Engineering, Warehouse Solutions, North America at Vanderlande. Welcome, Jake.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, glad you could be here. First off, could you just give a quick description of Vanderlande and sort of what the company does in the sector?
Sure. I like to be pretty brief with this. So effectively, Vanderlande is a solutions provider. We cover solutions for everyone from airports to parcel to warehousing, all the same. One of the clear benefits of that is leveraging the synergies across all three different domains and business units to support solutions and customers across all those domains, meaning that any technology or products that we develop for one can be leveraged for others. So effectively, we deliver those solutions as a true partner with the end goal in mind of supporting our customers to achieving new heights, new profits, and as well as supporting their own customers and end users the same way we at least anticipate to support our own customers.
Great. Now, let's get into talking about 2026 here. I know we have several points, so let's sort of move through them somewhat quickly here, but I've read some of your commentary on this heading into our talk, and I know that you have 5 general forecasts. First, that flexibility will define the use of automation. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, it's a good question. Flexibility can mean a lot of different things, but in particular, flexibility here, we're referring to in the warehouse market, in the warehouse space. A lot of our customers need to have the ability to shift to changing consumer demands. What does that mean? Market shift, as you see, you brought it up already this past year and many previous years, we've seen different things and different dynamics play in the market, whether it be a huge shift to e-com sales during COVID, supply chain disruptions, whether it be things like issues with the canal or geopolitical issues elsewhere in the world. There's a lot of things that are now companies are realizing can drive different demands with automation. Years previously, automation could be far more rigid, far more static in its approach because the market was far more predictable. Retail growth was more or less steady state. E-com growth was more or less steady state. And now, with the changing climates in the market, consumers and customers are looking for that flexibility in both how they shop and how they receive their goods, both in store or at home. So flexibility within automation really means allowing the warehouses to change how they fulfill orders for consumer demands. It also means, to some degree, allowing the warehouse customers to flex up or scale up as needed. Again, not knowing how fast you may need to scale up for e-com operations, as an example, Customers know they need to automate, but they don't know how much yet. And there's a bit of a fear, or a sense of fear, that if you automate too much too soon, then you also won't really generate a good ROI on your investment. So flexibility is a little bit all encompassing as a term, but if you break it down into those two molds, that's really what we see in the market and what we expect to continue to be a trend moving forward.
Got it. Well, we have several more predictions that we hope to get on, so let's move quickly through a couple here. Another idea that you mentioned, I know, is that innovation will redefine both commodity technologies and also the more cutting edge solutions. How can you explain that?
Yeah, we're still seeing innovation in the market, and there's been a lot over the past 4 or 5 years. But what I mean by commodity and advanced technologies is that we need to trend more towards standard components within the commodity market, as well as in the advanced technologies. We need to still continuously innovate towards more capabilities. And what I mean by that is things like item picking robots or palletization robots or floor loading and pallet loading trailers. All of those types of technologies can either be commodity or advanced, but we need to innovate continuously as we trend more towards these lights out facilities, as well as we trend more towards more automation in the market. Means that the service and the maintenance, the maintainability of those commodity type products needs to improve. And that's what I mean by innovation around the commodity types and innovation around the advanced technologies.
Thank you. Another point, the third one here, is that employee perception of automation is going to continue to evolve. In what way do you see that happening?
For me, this is the most exciting one. Obviously we have employees at the heart of everything we do here in Vanderlande. And so I see it a lot in our current company culture and how we want to make sure that employees are happy and healthy in their work life and what they do day to day. What we now see is in the warehouse, that's becoming a trend as well, and that automation is helping support that as a motto and as a mantra within the warehouse. Employees don't necessarily get a good vibe hearing that automation is coming their way off the break, but when they realize that that automation is supporting largely repetitive tasks that employees don't enjoy doing in the first place, such as picking up heavy cartons and heavy boxes and putting them on a pallet, it allows the employees to flex their skill sets towards something a little more enjoyable, maybe a little more challenging on the mind as well, whether it be maintaining those robots or doing something operations related towards process improvements or improving workflows in the workspace. Those types of jobs have been more challenging, more interesting for employees, and as well been less strenuous on them and their physicality in the workplace.
Yeah, that makes good sense. So a fourth idea of the five here is that you say that fulfillment will emerge as the new battleground for retail success. Hasn't it always been?
I would say not in the same way as what we see moving forward. When you look at generational models in terms of millennials and Gen Z and Gen X and so forth, we're seeing a trend, especially in Gen Z, to kind of go back into store, but going into store to see, feel, touch, but then still potentially order or highly likely order online. And we're seeing now too that stores are beginning to leverage that as a model where some Gen Z or some younger digital users are actually assessing online, buying online, and very often picking up in store because there's a mentality of getting out, getting to store, but also having the ability to pick it up immediately and touch and feel it. And so that's that instant gratification that you get for in-store pickup, for example. So fulfillment, what we see now is that retailers are getting smarter and trying to leverage what they have in their brick and mortar capabilities to begin fulfilling orders and give that instant fulfillment. Obviously, Amazon's pushed this for years with the 2 hour delivery, but there's huge advantages for retailers who already have brick and mortar stores to push fulfillment as an opportunity for themselves to take market share back on the e-com front.
Got it. So it sounds like an exciting time for us all to be a consumer. We're all consumer at some point in this process. And finally, the fifth thing that we'd talked about in your description here is that you say lights out warehouses will move within reach. That kind of caught our eye because people have been predicting that for a little while now.
Yeah, I recognize people have been predicting that for a little while. You know, being on the inside for a long time, I've always enjoyed that as a prediction. I've never once considered it as within reach until most recently. And you can go all the way back to the second prediction where we talk about innovations with advanced technologies. What we're seeing now is those advanced technologies are becoming more realistic. Even we're not where we need to be yet for true full lights out. Really, we're not there yet in terms of that full flexibility for lights out. However, with certain order profiles and certain dynamics within warehouses, where if a warehouse is dedicated to certain carton dimensions within a certain range, lights out is actually feasible at this stage. You can unload a loose load trailer. You can feed it into a automated storage system. You can automatically fulfill it through robotics. And then you can also, whether it be a pallet or loose load, you can now begin to load trailers automatically as well. So again, if the company's order profile and product range fits within a certain dimension or portfolio, lights out is within reach as of now. And I never would have said that 2, 3, 4 years ago, but we see that the probability and the possibility is finally there.
That is pretty exciting to hear. I'm going to look forward to seeing that and hopefully checking out some of those actual warehouses myself. Jake, we really appreciate your taking the time to talk with us today.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Our guest this week has been Jake Heldenberg from Vanderlande. Back to you, Dave.
Thank you, Jake and Ben. Now let's take a look at some of the other supply chain news from the week. We all know how important it is to keep workers engaged throughout their entire shifts in order that they be productive and happy. But that can be especially hard if they work in a warehouse where it could be sometimes monotonous work. But Victoria, you wrote about some new ways that employers are adding technology to drive some new employee engagement strategies.
I did, that's right. And this has much to do with attracting and retaining warehouse help, which is a big challenge these days. So this week, Gartner released research about what companies are doing to address that challenge. And they found that warehouse and distribution center leaders are focused on developing better employee engagement strategies. And gamification is at the top of the list. Now, gamification in logistics applies game design principles to operational processes and tasks, and the goal is to improve performance and enhance employee engagement. Those game design principles include things like points, badges, leaderboards, and rewards, all things employees can earn in a sort of competitive setting on the warehouse floor. Gartner predicts 40% of large warehouse operations will adopt gamification tools by 2028, so that's just a couple of years away.
It is, and that's a higher number than I would have thought. Did the research say why these tools work so well, and are there any downsides to using them?
They gave a few reasons. The research shows that gamified simulations and interactive quizzes, things like that, make learning more memorable, which in turn speeds the learning curve. So it reduces the time required for workers to gain competency in a particular skill or task. And that really helps with new or seasonal staff in the warehouse. They also found that progress tracking dashboards, which are common to these solutions, really give employees visibility into their development, and that helps build confidence and encourages continuous improvement. Now, they didn't mention this, but I would also think the reward and recognition portion of gamification is a huge motivator in itself, for many employees. But there are reasons to be cautious. Gartner said it's really important that you have the right culture in place before you implement any of these solutions. You want to make sure you're motivating people with these tools and not frustrating them. And of course, highly regulated environments and unionized workplaces have their own challenges. Federica Stufano, who is Senior Principal Analyst in Gartner's supply chain practice, emphasized the importance of planning and preparation when considering gamification. She said in the report that, and I'm quoting, gamification works when companies stop viewing labor as a fungible commodity and instead recognize employees as valuable assets. Legal, compliance, and change management efforts must also be aligned to ensure a successful gamification strategy that motivates rather than annoys or harms workers. Our readers can check out our story to find a list of action items that Gartner recommends when considering a gamification strategy. They recommend sort of five steps you can take to prepare so that you can maximize the implementation of these kind of tools.
That is a very interesting concept, and our story is now available on dcvelocity.com. Thank you,
That's right.
Victoria.
You're welcome.
And Ben, you just came back from Orlando, where you were at the RILA conference this week to hear what's trending with retailers. Can you tell us more?
Yeah, I'm glad to. This was the Retail Industry Leaders Association, the acronym of RILA, and it was their annual Link trade show. Of course, you get a lot of the nation's biggest shippers, biggest carriers there, all packed into the same convention center. And with all those interests side by side, you get some really interesting conversations. A couple of the sessions I attended sort of highlighted that. One was from Tractor Supply Company. They sell farming, outdoor animal equipment like hardware and clothing and animal feed, but they don't sell tractors, by the way. And they have a really broad supply chain since they keep 85% of their inventory forward deployed inside their 2,400 stores. And those stores, by the way, they're spread widely across the U.S., but they're almost exclusively in ex-urban or rural areas. Something like 2% is in urban areas. And by the way, they have an aggressive growth strategy. They're adding 70 to 100 new stores to that network every year. So if you live anywhere sort of in that description, if it's just not one already near you, there probably will be soon. But moving 40-pound sacks of animal feed or wood pellet fuel to all those sites is tough. So Tractor Supply Company told the RILA crowd that they found an unconventional solution. We write a lot in the magazine about the wonders of material handling equipment and robotics. But Colin Yankee, who's Tractor Supply's chief supply chain officer, said at the show, quote, that big and bulky objects can choke a DC. So we went through a number of years where we de-automated our DCs, he said. They had a lot of fixed automation, but Yankee said we also carry a lot of what he called nasty non-conveyable goods that just don't fit with the automation. And Tractor Supply Company found that their least automated DCs had the highest productivity and the least cost per unit.
That is interesting. And it's a reminder that automation is good for some types of inventory, but not necessarily for everything. What else did you learn at the retail show?
Yeah, another interesting story came from LL Bean, the outdoor clothing retailer, of course. The company's in the middle of a digital transformation, as so many are. It's gone at a slow and steady pace recently. They're also expanding. It's more slowly. They're adding 1 or 2 new stores annually. But recently, LL Bean ramped up that goal, and now they're looking to open about 10 new retail stores per year. However, as the company recently passed 50 total stores, and they're now approaching 70, that rapid growth is getting harder. And that's partly because they're based in Maine, of course, Freeport, Maine, but they still rely on a single distribution center for national sales, even as they expand from that New England core into new states in the South and in the West. But instead of investing in the big expense, huge expense to build new DCs, they have found more success by applying 3 particular goals as part of their digitization. Those things are improving demand forecasting with tools like machine learning, refreshing their warehouse management system, their WMS software. And the third one, it is a little bit less techy, but it's adopting what they call pre-packs, which means that if you have a certain type of a red shirt, and they might be in small, medium, and large sizes, in the past, each shirt has come wrapped in its own poly bag. But when they pre-pack it, they put all the different sizes together in a single bag. And that apparently it saves an enormous amount of time when the goods get delivered at the back door and the store workers bring them out to put them on the shelves.
Those are both very interesting ways that retailers are handling distribution, even considering their individual brand needs and some of the built-in challenges that they seem to have.
Yeah, it was interesting. Everybody has their own best solution, but it's fascinating to see the focus on this stuff.
Thank you, Ben.
Glad to.
We encourage listeners to go to dcvelocity.com for more on these and other supply chain stories. Also, check out the podcast notes section for some direct links to read more about the topics that we discussed today. And we'd like to thank Jake Heldenberg of Vanderlande for being our guest. We welcome your comments on this topic and our other stories. You can email us at podcast@agilebme.com. We also encourage you to subscribe to Logistics Matters at your favorite podcast platform. Our new episodes are uploaded on Fridays. And a reminder, Logistics Matters is sponsored by Werner. In cross-border shipping, experience is everything. With more than 25 years of trusted expertise in Mexico, Werner moves your freight seamlessly across the border. Their bilingual teams handle the customs and compliance, so you don't have to. Get the reliability your supply chain deserves. Become a customer today at choosewerner.com. We'll be back again next week with another edition of Logistics Matters. Be sure to join us. Until then, have a great week.